here, and we're in the second part of our endocrine system videos or series. So in the previous video, I mentioned how, just give an overview of the structure of the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland and what they do. Hypothalamus producing, inhibiting, and releasing hormones, while also producing ADH, antidiuretic hormone, and oxytocin. And the inhibiting and releasing hormones, which I basically called I and R, go to the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland, and the antidiuretic hormone and the oxytocin goes to the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. So in this video, we're going to talk about the specific kind of inhibiting and releasing hormones and how does the hypothalamus control it. So like I said, the hypothalamus produces oxytocin, antidiuretic hormone. It also does this really cool thing where it goes through preganglion fibers and it inserts right in the adrenal gland. In the medulla, it releases epinephrine and norepinephrine. In the cortex, it releases all of these hormones or steroids. But that's not for this video. That will be in a more in-depth video when we're talking about the adrenal gland specifically. But basically, it has to do something to do with these. Just keep that in mind. And the hormone regulating hormones. The other things that the hypothalamus does is to release inhibiting. Yes, I'm repeating this. And releasing hormones. So when you see an I, it means inhibiting. When you see an R, it means releasing. So the first thing here, we have growth hormone. As you see here, not all of them have an inhibiting version, but 2 of them do. And I'll write them off to the side here. That is growth. Those are the growth hormones. So for the growth hormone, we have an inhibiting version and we have a releasing version. So for growth hormone, we have growth inhibiting hormone and growth releasing hormone. Do you understand? In my version, so it's easier to understand. But let me see if I can put this in an easier way, or put this up to the side. Reduce the size. I can lasso this in. Reduce the size. Put it up here. Yeah, just like that. So for growth, we have a growth inhibiting or releasing hormone. Another hormone that aside from oxytocin and ADH that the hypothalamus releases is the prolactin. Let me just copy this because I'm too lazy. Not gonna work. Okay. Prolactin inhibiting or releasing. For inhibiting, we have the inhibiting factor. We have the prolactin inhibiting factor, and then for releasing, we have the prolactin inhibiting hormone. Just nice to remember, if inhibiting factor and RH releasing hormones, basically. So prolactin inhibiting factor and prolactin releasing hormones. And then we have the gonadotropin releasing hormones. So this doesn't have an inhibiting side, inhibiting version. I'm just going to leave it at, no. I can write it all out. Gonadotropin releasing hormone. I was going to leave it as H, but I didn't want to confuse anyone. But yeah, I'm going to just leave it as H. Gonadotropin releasing hormone. And then we have the corticotropin releasing hormone. And then we have the thyrotropin releasing hormone. If you notice, you see a lot of tropin. When you think of endocrine hormones with tropins, and you're thinking, is this hypothalamus? Is this produced by the hypothalamus or the pituitary? If you see a tropin there, it is from the hypothalamus. Just a little hint. So I'm just gonna put this off. Reduce the size and put it off. God knows where. Somewhere to the side or something. Yeah. I'm gonna put this off. So these are for the hypothalamus. Now let's go to the pituitary. So now the pituitary is more of the things we're used to hearing. Pituitary, we have the growth hormone. Now let me start by saying the growth hormone is released when the growth releasing hormone from the hypothalamus is released. Like, let me explain. The hypothalamus releases, let me call it GRH, growth releasing hormone. The hypothalamus releases GRH and it tells the pituitary, hey, produce growth hormone. GRH means release growth hormone, like produce growth hormone. So the growth hormone goes to its target organ, and its target organ is all the cells of the body. Let me just write this up here. Target organ. It goes through all the cells of the body. Every part of your body needs to grow. So there is no specific organ. It just goes kind of everywhere. And then the next hormone produced by the pituitary by the demand of the hypothalamus is the prolactin. So prolactin is more the release of milk and helps women in the production of milk for breastfeeding and so on. And basically, like oxytocin used in production of milk, it is produced at the request of the general commander hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus is like, hey, prolactin releasing hormone, release prolactin. And then the pituitary is like, aye, captain, releases prolactin. And prolactin goes to the mammary glands, which is its target organ, and is like, produce milk. And it does. So that's basically how the whole thing goes. The hypothalamus is like, sends out a command. The pituitary like says, aye, sir, and produces a hormone to like fulfill that command. And the hormone goes to the target organ, which actually does the action required to make the command work. And the hypothalamus is, it can be picky when it wants to. He's like, oh yes, release. Sometimes it's like inhibit. So when it's like, okay, stop producing milk, the hypothalamus releases the prolactin inhibiting factor, and that tells the pituitary gland, oh no, stop or reduce the production of prolactin, and that goes to the mammary gland and stops the production of milk or reduces that. Sounds pretty good to me. So the next thing we have is follicle stimulating hormone. This is found in both ovaries and testes. And when you say follicle, what do you think of? When I think of follicles, I'm thinking of follicles in the ovary, like in the creation of a child, the eggs. So the follicle stimulating hormone. When I think of follicle stimulating hormone, I'm thinking of like follicles, like actual things that you can see. Well, because the next one is a bit confusing to me. Well, it confused me initially. Luteinizing hormone. This deals more with the secretion of like other hormones like estrogen and testosterone. I'm thinking of follicle stimulated. I'm thinking of sperm and eggs. Yeah. Then we have the next big thing. We have the big mouthful. Adrenocorticotropic hormone. Whew, I'm gonna get me a glass of water. That was a lot to say. I'm gonna take that up here. You're gonna be like adrenocorticotropic hormone. Well, a lot of people, since it's such a mouthful, people usually call it ACTH for short. So I'm just gonna replace that. Just put the adrenocorticotropic somewhere a little bit farther away from here. Just gonna put it here and put ACTH. Ship that off to the side. So the next big thing is adrenocorticotropic hormone, and it goes to the adrenal cortex. Now the adrenal cortex basically has 3 different parts. It has the outer, middle, and inner zone. The outer zone, glomerulosa, is for renal absorption. Then we have glucocorticoids and androgens. But basically, this video is not going to go in depth into the different types. But just a quick highlight. I just wanted to remind you about something. Remember how we said that the hypothalamus has a fine way of going straight to the adrenal medulla? Cool. Because since the hypothalamus already takes care of the adrenal medulla in the production of epinephrine and norepinephrine, the other thing left is the adrenal cortex. And the adrenal cortex, its hormones are controlled by this nice hormone called adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH for short. And then the last hormone we have in our pituitary, our band of pituitary gland, is thyroid stimulating hormone. So the thyroid stimulating hormone goes to the thyroid. Its target organ is the thyroid. So I hope in this video I've been able to let me go over what I have here. Be able to like simplify and make it easier for you to understand the general or overview of all of this. Just want to get everything in here. It's kind of messy, but yeah. Like I said, it has a nice pathway. So the growth inhibitory hormone, or the growth inhibitory hormone, tells the growth hormone in the pituitary gland to stop running, and the growth releasing hormone from the hypothalamus tells the pituitary gland to tell to increase the production of growth hormone. And then the growth hormone is like its target organ is all cells in the body. But basically it goes into this really nice path. You have regulating hormones from the hypothalamus that control the production of hormones in the pituitary. And the pituitary, like, what is a hormone? A hormone is a chemical substance that is a messenger and transmits a message and goes to an organ, target organ. Please do not quote me for an exam. This is just a really big paraphrase. It goes to an organ, settles on or a target cell of an organ, and creates an action or a function or makes something happen. Please don't quote me. Basically, so its target organ is all cells of the body for growth hormone, and it goes like that. So just a brief recap for the hypothalamus. I'm gonna just zoom in here. The hypothalamus, we have the growth hormones, the growth regulatory hormones. So the growth regulatory hormones are inhibiting or releasing, and then we have the prolactin inhibiting factor and the prolactin releasing hormone. Remember, if inhibiting factor and then releasing hormone, because one of them is a factor. Just remember, it's if inhibiting factor. Then we have the gonadotropin, which goes to the pituitary and be like, hey, release the follicle stimulating hormone or release the luteinizing hormone. If you go up here, you see what the luteinizing hormone for. Luteinizing hormone secretion, estrogen and testosterone. Follicle stimulating hormone is basically, think of eggs and ovaries, follicles. And then we have these are tropins. We have the corticotropin. Corticotropin goes to the pituitary and is like, hey, release ACTH, adrenocorticotropin hormone. And then the thyrotropin goes to the pituitary and is like, hey, release thyroid stimulating hormone. And that's how the pathway works. And then you come here and the growth hormone from the pituitary is like, oh, where do I go to? All the cells in the body. That's your target organ. And then you have the prolactin. It's like, where do I go to? Go to the mammary gland. The follicle stimulating eggs and sperms. Create that in the gonads for both male and female. Ovaries and testes. Ovaries and testes for both male and female. The luteinizing hormone goes to the ovaries and testes too. What does he do? Release more hormones. Estrogen, testosterone. It does more than that, but this is just a big paraphrase, simplifying things. And then the ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. What does he do? It goes to the adrenal cortex. Remember what the C stands for? Cortical, adrenal cortex, adrenal cortical. Because guess what? The adrenal medulla is already covered right here. It's already covered by, guess what? The hypothalamus. So the only thing left in the adrenal gland is the cortex. And what controls it? This hormone, ACTH, right here, which is from the pituitary. And it goes to the adrenal cortex. Oh, see here, see below, right here, below. Okay, thyroid stimulating hormone from the pituitary goes to where the target organ is thyroid. So that's how it goes. I hope this has been able to explain things to you or like simplify things to you. And if it hasn't, please nicely put it in the comment section below. Nicely. Yeah, and if you have a suggestion, just don't have to increase, make it better. Thank you. Oh yeah, kind of forgot. So you know how I said we have an adrenal, we have an anterior and posterior lobe. So the anterior lobe has another division. It has more divisions. Let me explain. So the anterior lobe has two parts, pars distalis and pars intermedia. Pars distalis is basically it takes the inhibiting and releasing from the hypothalamus. I'm just going to say from hypo. And then pars intermedia does something quite unique, okay? So it produces melanocyte stimulating hormone. We're mostly familiar with the term melanin. Melanin is responsible for your skin color, basically. So yeah, it's nice to know that pars intermedia is part of the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland. And its whole function is just to do its own thing and produce melanin. Because I kind of forgot that here. So yeah, thank you for listening.